Welcome to Roadmap to Understanding Jim's military years. This might go longer than some of the others because I kind of want to get into a brief overview of what the military was for me. Uh, in 1992, June of 1992, I was 17 years old and I ran away from home the most responsible way I could think of. I joined the United States Air Force. And I went through basic training and tech school. And in tech school, I was in Biloxi, Mississippi, which was a fucking hole. The only bright spot was if you go an hour and a half east, you're in Panama City, Florida. You go an hour and a half west, you're in New Orleans, and that was a fun place to go. Uh, because back in the early '90s, you'd go to this place on Bourbon Street called Pat O'Brien's, and you'd order this thing called a Hurricane that came in a 3 foot glass that you got to keep if you could remember what the fuck you did with it, because there was so much booze in there that you couldn't taste because it tasted just like fruit punch. That by the time you finished half of it, forget it. You're hammered. If you finish the damn thing off, you have no memory of the night whatsoever, and you're damn lucky if your friends aren't pulling you out of the street. Like you're just melded with the street. So I've heard that they don't do that anymore. I'm sure a couple of people drank themselves to death. It was pretty pretty bad. But from there, I moved on to sunny Cocoa Beach, Florida, in February of '93, and that summer, I got introduced to my first strip club. I really didn't know what to think the first time I went in there. I'm 18 years old. I'd never been in a place like this. I never even considered going in a place like this. And a couple of guys dragged me in. And I'm like going, whoa, these women are gorgeous and they're half naked. What? I give you money and you're going to rub it all? Oh my God. Oh, typical 18-year-old kid the first time in a strip club. Now, I kept going back. Of course I kept going back. I'm not stupid. But what I found was that I usually would go in there by myself and I'd sit in the back corner of the club. And I found I spent more time talking to these women than getting lap dances from them. And I ended up becoming friends with most of them. And I'll tell you what, you learn how to look a woman in the eye with respect when she's sitting there half naked and you can do it. Trust me, it can be done. I've done it. Now, these women looked at me as kind of like, they treated me like I was like their little brother or something like that, their little mascot. And I would watch them work the room. And I would notice, oh wow, that guy's hitting on her. He's hit, that one's hitting on her, that one. And what was fun for me was they'd get around to me eventually, and they'd sit down and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, you want your shoulder rub? Because that's what I did. I gave them shoulder rubs, and I'd rub their feet, and they fucking adored me for it. Uh, and gave me all the advice that any man would ever want on how to attract women. Uh, God, they were some special women. Oh, they were incredible. I loved every single one of them and missed them all. Uh, they took really good care of me. But they'd get around to me and like, well, this guy over here is, oh yeah, no, I saw that. Was he hitting on you? Yeah. How did you know? I just figured. And, you know, 20 years later, I realized I'm a telepath, and that's how I know. It's fun being me, especially when I look back at my life and, after about 3 years ago, almost to the day, uh, when I awoke to the fact that, and I say fact, that I am a telepath, an empath, and a medium. Uh, but a lot of that didn't come into play in the military because I didn't know what I was doing back then. I was just doing it and had no idea that it was real. I thought it was all in my head. Uh, I just thought I was a really good guesser. Okay, so after Cocoa Beach and spending this summer with these wonderful and amazing women, uh, who I dearly miss. I got sent to Oklahoma to Tinkle Air Force Base, and I was not happy. To be in Oklahoma. When I walked out of the airport and saw the license plate that said Oklahoma is okay, this is what I actually did at standing outside the airport. Oh God, I'm fucked. And then for the next few years, realized just how accurate I was. No, I jest about that. During that time when I was living in the dorms, I'd spend my days after work. They had a pool table. I mean, me and a bunch of guys around the pool table shooting pool. And in tech school, I used to shoot that was all I did was shoot pool. Me and a few of the other guys. So that was all I did when I came home from work was shoot pool. I got really good at it. And there was, I'd get bored and I didn't want to go have a cigarette or sit down, watch some TV or something. So I would dump off, and it seemed like I kept dumping off to this one kid all the time, Junior. I assure you, it's tobacco. Otherwise, this wouldn't be as clear as it is. Trust me, I've tried. I didn't publish that one for good reason. Anyway, Junior, I kept dumping off to him, so he started talking a lot of trash that he was like, "Oh, I'll kick your ass in your town, better than you." Oh, yeah, all right, fine. Junior, $20 a rack. When do you want to go? $20 a rack. So one night, Junior took me up on it, and we went $20 a rack. About the time I was up 10 racks, $200, I said, dude, it is 2 o'clock in the morning. I have PT and have to run 2 miles first thing in the morning. I need to go to bed. I'll play you one last game. If you win, you don't owe me shit. And if I win, you just owe me the 200. And I tried to lose the game. Not totally tried, but did, make some effort to not win and still won. And he never paid me. So we lived on the same floor of the dorms, and he left this office chair sitting outside of his door one day. And since he hadn't paid me the $200, it didn't bother me to swipe the chair, and I held on to that chair up until a few months ago. From 1993 until I was 94, up until 2004. I had that chair for 20 years that I got out of a guy welching on a bed. I always thought that if you're going to hold on to something that's got a good story behind it. And I felt that had a great story. But it was in July of that year I met my first wife, Christy, and it was a thunderstorm that night. She ended up crashing out in my dorm room, and we did not have sex. All we did was cuddle that night. Clothes stayed on, whole 9 yards. And when we started dating, she made me work for it. She really did. I was impressed. We ended up getting married April 7th of 95, just before the Oklahoma City bombing. And I was home on leave for that. And there was a really good friend of mine named Courtney that married a guy in my shop, Shane. And Courtney was the kind of woman that when she walked into a room, the air changed. She was such a pure, beautiful soul. Just one of the most beautiful people I've ever known inside and out. Everything about her. And she got blown up because she was down there swapping over her Social Security card after getting married the weekend before the bombing. Literally blown to pieces. All the cots and tents that were in the dig out operation for that came from my unit, the 3rd Combat Communications Group, Armado, out in front. Then on May 4th was her memorial service. Standing room only, probably 2,000 people in this cathedral. And then the next day, I was in Panama City, Panama for the summer of 95. Hadn't even been married a month. But Panama was fun. I love Panama. I was really glad I went down there married. And the reason why is because the clubs down there, you go down to the clubs, and it's nothing but American GIs and some of the most beautiful, just gorgeous Central and South American women shopping for husbands to bring them back to the States. So I was really happy I went down there married, or I probably would have come back married because I was 18, or no, I was 20 and not real bright when it came to women. And it was a fun summer. Learned how to play golf. Went down there with my boss, John, and when we looked at each other, we're like, who's supposed to be babysitting who on this one? It's just, I don't know. And to tell you why I think I was the babysitter was because John, on the trip down there, brought a bottle of Crown Royal. So our 8-hour layover at the Atlanta airport, we stopped at the USO and got 25-cent Cokes out of the machine and got really shitty drunk before getting on the plane down to Panama. Took a nap and kind of sobered up on the trip down. So after that, I came back, and that year for Christmas, I brought Christy back here to Chico so she could see what that was like. And because she had taken me to the highest point in Oklahoma, this what they call the mountain, and you could literally drive up to the very top of it and walk around and shit. So it kind of blew her mind when we got to Chico, and she's like, "Wow, those hills were surrounded by make that mountain." And I know, don't they? And really kind of blew her mind. And then after that, in the first part of '96, I went down to Honduras on a humanitarian mission. Where I was providing communication support for Guard and Reserve construction troops who are rebuilding roads and schools and medical clinics in these smaller villages and whatnot. And to give you an idea of our conditions, we were camped out in the middle of this big-ass open field that was covered in about that much dust and cow shit. Okay? And the wind would blow in 4-day cycles, 4 days of sustaining winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour with gusts up to 90. And then 4 days of dead calm. And with the humidity, we're talking, it was 120 out, but it felt like 150, and all you could do was sit and sweat and drink water, like it was going out of style. I found a scorpion in my cot, and they say that the smaller they are, the deadlier they are. Well, these little fuckers were like that big and red, so they're kind of deadly. So we had regular Honduran army as part of our security force, and the only shots that were fired, these guys got in a fight one night and shot at each other. Okay, this is where I was at. Tarantula den right outside the tent. We even caught 2 of them and put them in a cage together just to do our own experiment on how territorial they are. God, we were stupid. And nobody saw how it happened. Nobody saw the battle that we don't think lasted very long. We just looked in the tank one day and saw that the bigger one had literally ripped the smaller one to shreds and to pieces. Like, we found that there were pieces of it in the tank. And after that, came back and did Combat Challenge. Well, before Combat Challenge, I got put on a painting crew for 2 months, where I was painting posts and fences and trim on buildings, and buildings that were 30 feet tall to get to the trim on the side. So they had this basket they put on the front of a forklift, and my ass got in the basket and went 30 feet straight up and paint. Or I'd climb out of the basket onto the roof so that they could get more guys up there and we'd get done faster. And I'd be hanging over the edge of the thing like this. And I'd show up to work wearing a pair of shorts and Birkenstocks, and that was it. And I got so dark that people would walk up to me in the mall speaking Spanish, even with these blue eyes. And I remember one of my African-American friends, we were horsing around in the dorms, and he's like, "God damn, you're getting dark, Carter. I think you're as dark as I am." And we held our arms up together, and I was darker than him. It was kind of funny. It gave us all a good laugh. But during that time in Honduras, which let me go back to that, I ended up getting an Army Achievement Medal for the work I did down there while I was in the Air Force, which was kind of cool. It was a kind of unique thing. And so for Combat Challenge, oh man, then they had us paint parking lots. Okay, cool. I got to sit on a cart with a spray gun being dragged around, or I got to drag the cart. And if I wasn't doing that, the rest of it we were doing a lot of standing around, shooting the shit, smoking cigarettes. So then we had our operational readiness inspection, where they tested us on how we did our job. And when they came down, my 4-man crew, was recognized as the outstanding performers for the 3rd Combat Communications Group, which had over 1,000 people in it in 5 squadrons. So it was me and 3 other guys that were recognized as the best of the best. My work center was recognized as the outstanding work center. My squadron was recognized as the outstanding squadron. My flight, the outstanding flight. And the evaluators were told my boss that with what we had done, that we had forced the Air Force to rewrite the criteria for our job. That we made the Air Force change the way they looked at our job and change the way that the Air Force did business. Hence why I'm a bit of an arrogant prick. I made the United States Air Force change the way it does business by the way I did my job. So there's some of the results that kind of back up why I am the way I am. When I got out, the reason I got out was I was looking at my job and looking at my wife and looking at everybody around me, and I just knew that if I had stayed in, I was going to Korea for a year unaccompanied, and I couldn't bear the idea of spending a year away from my wife. I just couldn't do it. So that was why I went ahead and let my enlistment be the 4 years that I originally signed up for. The hard one to swallow was back in 2012 when I realized if I had stayed in, I'd have retired 20 years with a full retirement at age 37. I mean, it was a hard pill to swallow, but I got over it. Anyway, that is the brief version of my military career. Some of the high points without some of the more embarrassing ones, and leaving out something that I probably should leave out and not mention. Anyway, I want you guys to take 5 minutes now. Let's take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes. And I want you to think about a missed opportunity that you had. Somewhere that you should have stayed when you look back and go, damn, why did I do that? And then I want you to look at the rest of your life outside of that and think about all the lives that you've touched and everything that you've experienced since then. And realize that there is no I should have. I did the exact right thing because look at where I'm at now. And I personally, I look at being the empathic healer that I am, and the number of people that I have healed, and the number of people that are still alive today because of me. And I have no problems with the way I live my life. None whatsoever. So when you take 5 this time, you're probably going to take a few days. All right? Have fun with it. You'll probably learn a lot about yourself and feel a whole hell of a lot better about your life. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.